Hi there, welcome along to Good Morning Transfers. Yes, we are still talking about Bruno Fernandez. Are Manchester United any closer to signing the midfielder? The very latest is on the way for you. And remember, there's plenty of ways to get involved.
Yes, good morning. The clock is ticking, and as time starts to run out, there are still 6 Premier League clubs currently looking for a striker. We'll be discussing all the options on the show.
Could Wolves be one of those clubs about to sign a striker? We'll have the latest on their transfer activity.
It's been a busy few days at Tottenham, and there's plenty more still to do, as their front line could look rather different for the visit of Manchester City on Sunday.
And we'll have news from Watford as Nigel Pearson looks to bolster his defensive options.
But we love starting Good Morning Transfers with a bit of breaking transfer news, and it concerns Arsenal. They are close to agreeing a deal with Flamengo for defender Pablo Mari. Mari is expected back in London imminently to finalise what would be a loan move with an option to buy. The deal was in the balance 24 hours ago, but a breakthrough in talks has increased confidence that a deal can be done. It is believed that Arsenal actually amended the structure of the deal after a Flamengo director claimed that they had changed the terms. So yeah, Arsenal close to agreeing that deal with Flamengo for defender Pablo Mari. Michael, Pablo Mari to Arsenal, how do you see this one? A good fit for the club?
Well, very good fit. I think Mikel Arteta said a couple of times he's looking for a left-footed centre-back in the side. The Mustafi injury is an ankle sprain, but of course, Arsenal need bodies. Looks like a good deal for them. They'll be happy, the fans will be happy, Arteta will be happy. Busy few weeks coming up. They're still in the FA Cup and the Europa League starts.
It's important as well that he's got his first signing through the door. I think that's always key. As a manager that walks into a new football club, you need to assess the options, you need to look at what you've got. And he's very clearly seen that there is a bit of a hole at the back, and he's gone out and addressed it straight away. And they say most managers, when they reshape a squad, they start from the back and go forward. You look at the front line for Arsenal, there's a lot of quality there. They've always been lacking at the back. He's gone out and got his man, and that's a big impact statement as well from the manager.
Yeah, and James, ones that the fans will be happy with?
Yeah, they will be happy. I think there was a little bit of concern from Arsenal fans when the player flew in for a medical, flew straight back out to Brazil straight afterwards. There was news, obviously, of the talks breaking down between the clubs and obviously the change, but yeah, they'll be pleased that this has got over the line. We know that there isn't money readily available at Arsenal to spend in this transfer window, so to get the loan option with an option to buy left-footed player, as Michael was saying, and he's a good ball-playing centre-back, which suits the style of Mikel Arteta and what he's looking to bring into this Arsenal team. So I think it's a good signing. Covers for like Callum Chambers, who's obviously out for the season. Rob Holding's still struggling for fitness. Mustafi obviously picked up a little ankle sprain. He might be out for a little short period of time. So with the games coming thick and fast, I think it's a good option and a good signing for Arsenal.
Yeah, we will talk a little bit more about Arsenal, but I mean, do they still need more, or is Mari enough for them?
I think every Premier League club at the moment seems to want more. We want more. We're all like Oliver, aren't we? Can we have more, please, sir? Arsenal need full-back cover. They need defensive midfield cover. They need to improve the quality of the squad. If they're going to compete where they expect to be competing at the top of the Premier League, they need more options in. But realistically, is it going to happen in January? It's not. But if we get loan signing in of Pablo Mari, of course, then I think Arsenal fans will be happy and then look to rebuild again in the summer and give, hopefully, Mikel Arteta some funds to spend to bring the players that he wants at the club.
He's very tall, isn't he, as well? But I mean, they might be thinking, they've got William Saliba coming in as well in the summer, who they think very, very highly of, and a lot of Premier League clubs were looking at him as well. So, I mean, 26, that's a great age for a defender. So, yeah, good morning for Arsenal.
Yeah, and let's move on to Manchester United now, because tensions between the United supporters and Ed Woodward had been rising in recent weeks. Last night, the executive vice-chairman's home was attacked by a group of men. Flares were thrown and red paint was sprayed on the gates. Woodward, of course, had been working on a deal for Sporting Lisbon midfielder Bruno Fernandez. A deal had been agreed in principle shortly before the attack happened. And Mark, bring us up to speed with the Fernandez situation. What's going on? Where are we?
Yeah, significant movements over the last 24 hours with regards Manchester United and Bruno Fernandez. He is now finally close to sealing his move from Sporting Lisbon. Manchester United have offered a fee which has been agreed with Lisbon. It is £68 million. United increased their offer to Sporting for Fernandes twice, in the last 24 hours, the second part of the deal, which could rise to 80 million euros, which would be around 67 million pounds. So their initial offer rising is a gap between 20 million pounds, so quite significant add-ons for this one. Now this is where you have to pay attention because the add-ons are quite significant, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated. After weeks of negotiations, United Executive Vice Chairman Ed Woodward has reached an agreement with the sporting director Hugo Viana, which could see United pay an initial fee of 55 million euros, around 46 million pounds with add-ons. Sporting would receive a further 10 million euros from United if Fernandes reaches what they consider to be achievable targets, achievable add-ons and bonuses. One of those is understood to be Fernandes winning the Ballon d'Or. So it's those types of things, of course, Champions League football, winning titles, winning silverware, they're all a part of the deal as well. Officials are in Lisbon and are waiting for all the relevant documentation to arrive, to be checked and signed off to finally trigger the move to Manchester United. It's been an ongoing saga. There was a late twist as well with Barcelona joining the party, but finally Manchester United look like they're getting their man.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it being a saga. You mentioned that late twist because, James, it seems United might have a little bit of competition. I mean, it seems that way.
It seemed, shall we say, that way. I'll say it like that. Now, we believe that United put the bids in after there was interest reported that Barcelona wanted to sign the midfielder. Now, they were willing to pay more than Manchester United, but what they wanted to do was to send Bruno Fernandez to Valencia on loan for the rest of the season in order to make way to sign Valencia forward Rodrigo, obviously of cover for Luis Suarez, who's currently out pretty much for the season. So all I'll say is look at Bruno Fernandez' agent, George Mendes, Genius George, as I like to call him. His top client is Cristiano Ronaldo. He is a super agent, and the reason why he's a super agent, because he gets deals done. How did he get it done? Well, I would hazard a guess. I wouldn't like to assume. That's just my personal opinion, but maybe dangled the carrot of Barcelona in there, and all of a sudden Man United came running with more money and are getting the deal done. I think it's very, very smart from Bruno Fernandez' agent.
Yeah, and we actually have something on Instagram. This was his friend, it's a singer, Carolina Deslandes, posted this on Instagram in a lift, but have a look in the middle there, a little aeroplane flying. Are they in an airport lift perhaps? Is he on his way to England? Fans probably looking at that, getting a little bit excited again, but they are frustrated, aren't they, Michael? I mean, we've seen it constantly for the past few weeks on Twitter, using that hashtag transfer talk. Just get this one done is what they've been saying.
I wouldn't want to watch a Bruno Fernandes box set.
But I mean, how important is it that they do just get this one over the line and do it now?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer playing everything down in terms of transfers, which is obviously frustrating for supporters. The thing is, for the supporters paying the money to watch the games, it's not their money for the player. They just want the player in. It's a huge boost for them, ahead of a massive game tonight as well, it must be said. I thought they did really well against Tranmere, to be honest with you. I think that could have been a real banana skin, potentially, on that pitch as well. So that was a good result for him. He went strong in that game as well. He's going strong in the Cups. And because of that, the Europa League coming back as well, they're going to need bodies. But he looks a real player, this guy. I mean, Tottenham were looking at him in the summer as well, and I thought that was going to happen. But he's going to go to Manchester United. And from what I've seen, they're getting a very, very good player. Yeah,
they are. And Alice, the stats kind of talk for themselves when it comes to Bruno Fernandes.
Absolutely. And as Michael touched on there, we knew how much they were in need of bodies. And that was even before the injury to Paul Pogba and to Scott McTominay. Obviously, Marcus Rashford is out now, so goals could potentially be fairly hard to come by. And his stats are impressively, really hugely impressive for a midfielder. More like those of a striker, really, which will be news to the fans' ears, I should think. Since the start of last season, he's got more goals and more assists than Kevin De Bruyne and Philippe Coutinho. So those are the likes of the calibre of the player we're talking about. 32 goals and 18 assists last season. This season he's been in prolific form as well, 15 goals and 14 assists. So yeah, Manchester United fans will be hoping he can continue where he left off, definitely.
He's been described as the best player in Portugal for a number of years. He has dominated the league, he controlled matches. As Alice says, his statistics speak for themselves. So the Manchester United are getting a real gem of a player who could transform their midfield.
And we mentioned obviously the Barcelona element there. Michael, you kind of touched on Tottenham perhaps being interested in him in the past, and it's almost like Manchester United are taking their time over this because they think it's their deal to be done. Is there a chance another club may swoop in for him and actually, because he is a sought-after player, would you be surprised to see that happen?
We see Barcelona reports yesterday, and I saw a Barcelona report on Eriksen, and that got done quite quick afterwards as well. We don't know. It looks like it's going to be Manchester United now, and for Manchester United fans' sake, they'll hope it is as well. But they've got they are fifth. I mean, they've got so many massive games coming up. This could be a huge, huge plus for them. He's not even that old. I liked his attitude after the summer. He was in tears when he thought he was leaving, joining Tottenham or Manchester United last summer. But look, he's kept his attitude spot on. He's scored loads of goals, and it's intriguing. I mean, the Portuguese league isn't as good as the Premier League, but he could easily hit the ground running. Look, they've seen enough, and other European scouts have seen enough. It's a good deal. It looks a good deal.
Yeah, right, let's just move on. We've got a quick line to bring you. One deal done this morning. Sheffield United striker Callum Robinson has joined West Brom. It is a loan deal for the remainder of the season. Right, keep in touch, keep getting in touch using that hashtag transfer talk. Tottenham fans will have the latest on your club as Jose Mourinho closes in on a winger. Stay with us. Welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. It is time for the State of Play, and with Alice, what have you got for us?
Plenty. Bruno Fernandez is close to sealing a move from Sporting Lisbon to Manchester United, with a £68 million fee having been agreed between the two clubs. Daniel Podence will fly into the UK today after Wolves agreed a fee with Olympiacos for the winger, who could cost around £16.9 million. Watford are expected to return with a new offer for Burnley's central defender Ben Gibson before the window closes on Friday. Watford had a loan with an option to buy offer turned down yesterday, and Nottingham Forest boss Sabri Lamouchi has dismissed speculation linking Matty Cash with a move away from the City ground.
Right, a couple of deals confirmed just as our transfer talk show came off air yesterday. I think they literally broke at 1 minute past 1 o'clock. Christian Eriksen's speculation can officially end. His move to Inter Milan was confirmed as a £16.9 million deal, while Giovanni Lo Celso has made his loan move from Real Betis to Spurs permanent for £27 million. Michael, good business here from Spurs?
It's as if Spurs had Sky Sports News on. Do you know what? It was fantastic because the tweets dropped at the same time. We wish Christian Eriksen well, but we're delighted to announce that Giovanni Lo Celso is now a permanent Tottenham Hotspur player. He's in fantastic form. We're seeing the player that Tottenham were scouting for so long. He looks really good. Fantastic performance against Southampton on Saturday. Went past 5 Southampton players, laid it off. Lamela, Heung-min Son goal. It was absolutely fantastic. He's going to play a big part for Tottenham's future. Eriksen's gone. Good, It's happened. It's gone. He was looking to go for a while. I think Spurs have got a decent fee for someone who's out of contract very soon, and Spurs move on, and they're going to be very busy.
Jose Mourinho also had said that he'd actually given the club no option but to execute this offer to make it permanent because of his form. So it's great news for Tottenham fans, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's actually news of another player potentially moving closer to becoming a Spurs player. Potentially this one going through today, James.
Yeah, late last night, the news came in that potentially a deal's been done between Tottenham and PSV for Steven Bergwijn. Was in the final stages. He was having his medical last night, we believe, and we're expecting him to be announced as a Spurs player today. Fee looks to be around £25.6 million plus add-ons as well. And all over social media this morning, you could see pictures of the player holding up a Tottenham shirt with his family there as well. So I think I can see a nice smile on your face, Michael. Happy with this one, I believe.
I have actually got some quotes from Dutch media. He's actually been speaking about his move. He said, "I've always looked up to a top coach like Jose Mourinho, and I'm now going to play for him. It's great to be here. Just look at the facilities around us. When I play on the PlayStation, I always choose a team from the Premier League. That better be Tottenham. And I look forward to playing in this great atmosphere. It will take some getting used to, but it will be all right. I think my physical match, he's a big guy. He's quick, but he's very muscular as well. He's looking forward to the Premier League. I believe in myself, and I really know that I'm not there yet. I have played many matches in Holland. England is a bit different, but I know what I can do." So, good words. He's confident and he's ready.
Yeah, we had the Dutch journalist, didn't we, Marcel van der Kraan, on the Transfer Talk podcast yesterday, and he said that he's the paciest player in the Dutch league right now. He said he's super quick. One thing he did say as well is that he can play along the front line. Now, we're talking about Tottenham's search for a striker right now. A player like that to fit in, as well as Son, Moura to cover for Harry Kane's absence. If Tottenham can't get a striker over the line, they've got to be pleased to get a player in who can cover that position if necessary.
Yeah, and Vernon's actually just tweeted us. He says, "Hi guys, love the show." Thank you, Vernon. He says, "I think Bergwijn is a good signing for us, but we still need a striker, as you said, James." And Alice, do you expect to see some new faces, even more new faces, because they do need to fill that position up front?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, losing Harry Kane is absolutely huge, and we know he won't be back until training until April, and that's just back in training. You know, it could be a number of months before he's actually back out on the pitch. I mean, last season we saw that Heung-min Son and Lucas Moura, they did the best they could, and they played fairly well under Maurizio Pochettino, but obviously they're playing under a different manager. They've got Troy Parrott, but he's still very young, and Jose Mourinho has said he probably doesn't think he's yet up to the standard that he would want. So they've got a lot to deal with, and I think, yeah, with Harry Kane out for quite a while, they'll definitely be looking to fill that void, especially if they are, you know, challenging for that top 4 finish, definitely.
It's quite interesting as well that they're making additions. Are we starting to see a rejuvenated Tottenham side? Because we know that the Maurizio Pochettino era came to an end. That group of players that he had for 4 or 5 seasons that were incredibly successful just didn't get that piece of silverware. Are we starting to see Jose Mourinho's team, is he reshaping what you believe, you speak to a lot of Spurs fans, could be another class team that could go on and challenge for the next 3 or 4 years?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, they're going to mould it differently now a little bit. The less emphasis on Eriksen with him going. Lo Celso's going to play a big part in this team now. Tanguy Ndombele, people forget about him, record signing. If he comes back in the side, has a consistent run of games, that's what he needs now. And with this new attacker as well coming in, and a potential another striker coming in, it will look a bit different. But yeah, change is needed. Needs to freshen up, and a few players will be going out, I think, as well.
Yeah, Martin Edwards has just got in touch. Any truth in Giroud to Spurs? And Michael, I saw on your Twitter last night you tweeted about potential interest in Olivier Giroud. What can you tell us about that?
I must say that Spurs, I believe, will have a striker in after 11 p.m, after the deadline. It's just on which one they will go for. Personally, I think their number one choice will be Piontek, whether that's to do with the fee or negotiation, players, obligation to buy, option to buy. There's still a lot to go in with that. Willian Jose as well, in Spain as well, but I still think Piontek is the one they would want. Now, Olivier Giroud, if there's interest there, the problem is that Tottenham and Chelsea don't do business. It never really happens. I'd be surprised if this deal did happen. There is interest. There's a list of strikers. I believe there is interest. Whether that goes any further than interest, we'll wait and see. The problem with Chelsea is if they do get rid of Olivier Giroud, I believe Tottenham is the last team they'll want him to go to. I'll tell you why. Because if he does well, he can knock Chelsea out of the top 4.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, Olivier Giroud used to play for Arsenal as well, by the way. I'd be surprised if he wants to make that move across North London.
Well, I mean, it happened with William Gallas, and he had a good couple of years at Tottenham. He wants to stay in the French setup for the Euros. But look, as I say, I still believe Spurs will look at Piontek as the number one choice. But I do believe there is an interest in Giroud. Whether it's just interest, anything develops, we'll see. You'd be the first to know.
It's funny because he's actually what they need. You know, someone who knows the Premier League, someone who can score goals, someone who's got experience, someone who's not looking to play vast amounts of games, but he can go into the setup right now and play until Harry Kane's back, and then Tottenham have got 6 months to go and then get a player that can play either alongside Harry Kane or challenge Harry Kane, someone perhaps a bit younger, who can then be for 4 or 5 years down the line.
Yeah, right. I'm just going to break away from this for a moment because we do have a little bit of a development regarding the Bruno Fernandez situation, and that is that the Portuguese Stock Exchange has this morning suspended shares in Sporting Lisbon while, and I quote, awaiting the disclosure of relevant information. We are monitoring this news for you, trying to find out exactly what that means. The initial reaction, though, from media sources in Portugal is that the suspension is related to the sale of Bruno Fernandes to Manchester United. At this stage, it's not thought that the transfer of Fernandes will be adversely affected by this development, but we understand it is related to the sale of Fernandes to United. So we are watching the Portuguese Stock Exchange and we will bring you any more on that as we get it. Right, we are going to talk a little bit more about Arsenal. We mentioned earlier that breaking news at the start of the show that they are close to agreeing a deal with Flamengo for defender Pablo Mari. He is expected excuse me, back in London imminently to finalise what would be a loan move with an option to buy. Another player, though, that has been linked with a move to the club is the Southampton defender Cedric Suarez. Mark, two potential deals that would fit into Arsenal, but again, it means that it doesn't require significant investment, as we've been talking about this whole window.
No, absolutely. The thing about Cedric is he's out of contract in the summer. The other thing I want to point out, he's a European Cup winner as well with Portugal in 2016. So he's a player with Premier League experience. He's won massive silverware and brings a whole wealth of experience. And when you look at his qualities, he would definitely fit into an Arsenal setup. He's into the final 6 months, as we said. We know that there's been dialogue between Southampton and Tottenham with regards Kyle Walker-Peters. It looks like he's favouring a move down to the south coast, which would potentially free up Cedric to move. And if Southampton can generate a little bit of money for a player that they're going to lose for free in the summer, that would certainly make sense for them. So this is another interesting one. It's one of those domino deals that one player happens and then that allows another player to move on. So, yeah, certainly it seems like there's movement down there between Tottenham and Southampton, and obviously Southampton and Arsenal for Cedric Suarez.
Yeah, and just picking up on Walker-Peters, as you said, the clubs have agreed in principle the terms of a deal for the rest of the season. He had a medical in the South Coast yesterday. Southampton looking set to beat Crystal Palace to his signature. And Michael, you do know this player well. You've watched him for a long time. Is that a good move?
Yeah,
for him?
sorry, I had my phone out. Yeah, you're right. They are going to complete it. He's got a medical yesterday, and it's a big blow for Crystal Palace, because they really, really wanted him, and they've not replaced Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but it does look like he's going to Southampton. No word yet on whether there'll be a permanent deal in the summer. I don't know, but Kyle Walker-Peters needs games. It's as simple as that. He's had decent games for Spurs. He had a man-of-match performance against Newcastle at the start of the season before, and then he petered out again. Kieran Trippier and Serge Aurier were preferred to him, but he's a young English right-back. He's an World Cup winner, under-20s. He just needs a consistent run of games, and it's a good club. I mean, we're getting more info here. It's a good deal. It's a good deal for Southampton and a good club. I mean, Palace would have been a good club for him, but Southampton are currently flying under Ralph Hasenhüttl.
He spoke very early on about getting fullbacks in during this window. That was the two key positions. He wanted a right back, he wanted a left back. He's now got the right back.
Yeah, and let's go back to the Arsenal perspective, because Suarez, I mean, we keep on asking the same kind of questions. Is he the type of player that would fit in? But could you see Suarez and Arsenal working?
I think the thing is, the positive side, he's got Premier League experience. I think that's absolutely vital. What we've certainly seen throughout this window, how difficult it is to sign fellow Premier League players. Premier League clubs aren't willing to sell to other Premier League clubs at the moment. As regards long-term for Mikel Arteta, I don't really see it. He's 28 years old. I just don't see that as a forward step, a move to the future. Don't get me wrong, I think he's a solid right back. It's a position at the moment that Arsenal certainly need a little bit of cover. He can play left back as well. We know injuries to Kieran Tierney. Kolasinac has had his injury struggles of late. We're playing Bukayo Saka. Saka at the moment, at left back as well, who's more of an attacking player. Hector Bellerin struggled with injuries at right back. Ainsley Maitland-Niles has been filling in. We've seen Socrates fill in, so it's certainly an area in Arsenal's team that they're looking for somebody, but I just don't see it as a forward-thinking move for Mikel Arteta myself.
OK, let us know what you think. Arsenal fans, keep using that hashtag transfer talk. Make sure you have your say. It is looking like it's a window that's dominated by clubs in desperate need of a striker, but should teams be thinking outside the box? We'll have a look at some options next.
Welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. There it is. The clock is ticking. 2 days, 13 hours, 27 minutes and a few seconds. Time is running out to get business done. Here we are at the business end of the transfer window, where managers are looking for one final piece of the jigsaw, which could be the most crucial and potentially expensive. This is what we're calling the search for a striker. We know that there are 6 Premier League sides looking for a striker, but as we know, there aren't many strikers around. So that's why I'm calling on managers, sporting directors and recruitment staff to think outside the box. They're the clubs. Take a look at these. Blasts from the past, 3 strikers that all made an impact after joining the Premier League in January. First up, the man on my right-hand side over here, John Stead. He went from the old Division 3, which is now League 2, to the Premier League. At Huddersfield, he scored 18 goals in 31 appearances and then joined Blackburn for just over £1 million on deadline day. He continued that scoring run where he got 6 goals in his first 11 Premier League games for Blackburn. Quite a remarkable impact. Then this man, you'll recognise him, Henrik Larsson, of course, who joined Manchester United in January 2007 on loan from Helsingborgs, one of Sir Alex Ferguson's final signings, who had a huge impact at Old Trafford, not necessarily with goals, but most certainly with performances. And finally, the man to my right, Landon Donovan, who went from the MLS to the Premier League in 2009, joining Everton from LA Galaxy. He ended up having 2 loan spells, actually. The first a lot more fruitful than the second, where he got 2 goals in 7 Premier League starts. So there you go, back to the ticker. Time is running out and the search for a striker is on. Which team will get their man? Who will think outside the box? And who will find a gem? Who will be celebrating at the end of the season the striker they signed from out of the blue? Could it be someone they've taken a gamble on? Could it be Ivan Toney at Peterborough? Or what about Carlos Vela or Josef Martinez from the MLS? Or what about a striker from the far reaches of Europe? Who would you like your club to sign? Remember, this is your show. Get in contact with us and just remember the hashtag #TransferTalk.
Yeah, do get in touch. Let us know your suggestions of kind of outside the box thinking when it comes to strikers, because it does seem to have paid off in the past, as you said there, Mark. So where do you guys think clubs should be looking? James, have you got anyone up your sleeve?
It's a few, sometimes, not always right though. Now Mark mentioned actually a couple now. I've been watching the MLS and working with the MLS for a few years previously, and Carlos Vela, formerly at Arsenal, played in Spain as well, was in superb form for LAFC last season, missed out on the MLS Cup but he certainly had a big impact, scoring 34 goals in 31 games. Also, Josef Martinez. Now, I want to put the link in with Newcastle with Miguel Almiron. Now, both of them were a part of Atlanta United's 2018 MLS Cup win. Now, Martin is a proven goal scorer in the MLS. The last 3 seasons, he scored 19 in 21 in 2017, 35 in 39 in 2018, and last season, 28 in 32. He is a goal scorer. I think he'll still score goals in the Premier League. I'd have loved to have seen him link up with Miguel Almiron at Newcastle United. So that's one up my sleeve. And the other one up my sleeve, Daniel Sturridge. Kind of forgotten man. Now, he's only been in Turkey for about 6 months. Scored 4 goals in 9 appearances. A couple of them very short substitution appearances, a couple of little knocks along the way, but again, Premier League proven striker could be an option for a lot of teams this window. It's
interesting, that's one of the reasons why I mentioned about Landon Donovan, because obviously the MLS sides are all back in pre-season training now. So if there was a Premier League side that could get one of those players in for, 4, 8, 12-week loan, which would essentially mean they wouldn't miss any of their sides' key matches in the MLS, it could be a nice little loan move.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more Premier Leagues looking overseas as well. I mean, looking at Aston Villa, the last 2 strikers they've brought in have been from Belgium. They brought Wesley in the summer, and obviously he had quite a slow start to life in the Premier League. And then just as he was starting to get going, he then suffered that injury on New Year's Day that will keep him out for the rest of the season. And then as his replacement, they've gone and brought in Ali Samata, also from Belgium. He was the Genk captain. So yeah, it's interesting to see how they've done that as well. And finance-wise, £22 million they paid for Wesley, £8.5 million that they paid for Samata. So maybe there's a bit more with value for money abroad in some places as well.
Yeah, I mean, it seems there are definitely options if teams want to go down that route of looking outside the box. But Michael, do you think we will see some surprise signings come Friday? Maybe, because all clubs have first choices, second choices, third choices. It's like your big shop. You've just got a big list of players who you get, and at the end you just go with the one which is most accessible. I do believe it's going to be a busy deadline day, and there's always something out of the blue. Go, oh my goodness me, I forgot all about him. Do you remember Emmanuel Adebayor? Yeah, he's left Turkish club Kayserispor last month. There is newspaper reports linking him with a couple of Premier League sides. Knows the league well, doesn't he?
97 goals, wants to make it to 100.
Yeah.
And greatest celebration in Premier League history at Man City away. Who can forget that?
To be honest, I think he'd be a great value to have back in the Premier League.
Yeah, great character, great experience. He knows the game, he knows the league. Why not? Why not? Owen Doyle, another man. He scored 23 goals in 30 games for Swindon.
Yeah.
On loan from Bradford. He knows where the net is.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. You need a striker, someone who can come in, potentially not going to be massively expensive, but every goal in the Premier League could be worth millions and millions of pounds.
Well, there are plenty of players out there. As Mark said, let us know, #transfer talk. We just want to bring you some pictures. These just coming into us just now. This is crime scene investigation officers arriving at the house of Ed Woodward. This was following that attack on his property last night. Of course, tensions between United fans and Woodward been rising in recent weeks. His home was attacked by a group of men. Flares were thrown, red paint was sprayed on the gates. The graffiti, as you can see on those pictures, they're covered up, some still left on the wall. But yeah, those the current pictures there, crime scene investigation officers arriving at Ed Woodward's house. Right, we are going to turn our attention to Wolves. I'm going to make my way from the desk and across the newsroom because I'm going to find one of the members of our transfer team, Anton Tolui. As you know, he's part of our team. He's going to be part of the midday transfer talk show as well. This guy, I assure you, he is always working, and he's also always working on finding out what is going on at Wolves. And Anton, you've got two players to bring us up to speed with. What is going on?
Yeah, Wolves fans would have woken up to the news we brought you around 6 o'clock this morning on Sky Sports News that Daniel Podence, the winger, is on his way to Wolverhampton. A fee of around £16.9 million was agreed between Wolves and Olympiacos last night. And lots of fans have been getting in touch with us over the last couple of weeks saying, where are the senior signings at Wolves? Come on, get the players in. Well, this has taken a while because Olympiacos basically didn't want to sell one of their best players halfway through the season. And they quoted Wolves around £21.5 million. So that's why negotiations have been pretty fraught. They almost came to a halt over the weekend. But Podence is now on his way. He'll have a medical at Wolverhampton later today. My understanding is the player that really wanted the move here. He wanted to play in the Premier League and he wanted to play for Nuno Espirito Santo. And he joins up with quite a few Portuguese teammates, doesn't he? The likes of Rui Patricio, who he played with at Sporting, Ruben Neves, João Moutinho. And you've got to remember, Podence has never actually played for Portugal, so he'll want to enhance his chances of breaking into that very good Portugal side ahead, of course, the Euros in the summer. You mentioned two players.
Yeah.
The second one, it's all gone a bit quiet on this front, I'm afraid. Nelson Oliveira, the striker who's well known to the likes of Reading, Forest and Norwich. Of course, he was there as well. My understanding is the last bid for him was in on Friday, and it was below the release fee, which is £5.5 million from AEK Athens. So it's gone a little quiet on that front, and Wolves do want to buy a striker before Friday's deadline. They are desperate to get cover for Raul Jimenez, who, of course, is the main man pretty much at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Him and Adama Traore lighting up the Premier League this season. It's been so much fun to watch them. I've been speaking to Nuno a fair bit this month, and he's said consistently, we want players this month. We really want players. They're leaving it late. Podence, we expect to get done, well, medical today, probably get wrapped up tomorrow, and we're expecting a striker before the deadline. Whether that be Nelson Oliveira will be fascinating to see.
Yeah, it will indeed. Anton will be keeping us across that. Anton will be joining us, as we said, at midday on Transfer Talk. I'll see you then. Addy as well. He's just off camera, but he's also joining the team at midday. But stay with us because coming up next on Good Morning Transfers, we're going to be focusing on Watford. They want a defender. The question is, will they get one? And who else is going to be busy before Friday? Hey, welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. We're just going to bring you up to date with the very latest on Olivier Giroud. Inter Milan are considering pulling out of the race to sign the Chelsea striker this month. This is according to Sky in Italy. Michael, what do we know about this situation?
Yes, sorry, Joe, because we're literally just getting this real development here. So, following the arrival of Eriksen yesterday, Inter are concerned that their squad will be too big if Giroud came as well. So it's not necessarily maybe another club looking at Giroud now, or maybe, obviously we'll find out. Look, striker Sebastiano Esposito, midfielder Matias Vecino were linked with moves away. With Everton, we're interested, we were saying, with Vecino. Their departures would have trimmed the squads to maybe free up space for Giroud, but they're probably going to stay now until the end of the season at least. They're keen for Giroud to commit to signing for them in the summer when his contract expires. So if Giroud stays at Chelsea, then Inter might revisit it. But at the moment, Sky and Italy are saying that Inter are considering pulling out.
And if Inter do pull out, we've already spoken about it this hour, about potentially Tottenham's interest. But I wonder from the Chelsea perspective, James, do you think Chelsea want him to stay? Do you think he wants to stay at Chelsea? Because it's kind of not looking that way.
I think they'd be probably both happy if he found another club. I think Giroud's been a pretty good servant in recent times for Chelsea, helped them in the Europa League last season. He was a key part of their success last season. But this year, he started two Premier League games maybe he started this year. It's not a lot of football. He's got the Euros coming up in the summer that I'm certain, we spoke about it before, Didier Deschamps must be crying out for Olivier Giroud to get some game time before the summer. Now, when we spoke about Inter Milan and we saw this come up originally, I was really concerned about it because I didn't see him getting the game time there that he should be getting. I think it really opens the door to a lot of Premier League clubs to potentially go straight after Olivier Giroud, quite aggressively as well. We just did a feature, didn't you, Mark, about a search for a striker. Here is a Premier League proven striker. Surely he's got to be now on the top of a lot of clubs' radar.
Yeah. 73 Premier League goals in 119 Premier League starts at Arsenal.
Yeah.
You know, that's an incredible record.
Yeah.
He's only going to be wanting to go to a team where he is guaranteed minutes, really. He won't want to be going and sitting on the bench because we know how frustrated he's got. Tammy Abraham has been in very good form for Chelsea this season, and obviously Michy Batshuayi is there as well, Olivier Giroud. So he has found game time. We've talked about it. Minutes hard to come by, and if he's going to make a move, he will want to be playing, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, we did touch on it before, but would he get the game time at Tottenham if Tottenham did come in for him?
110%. Look, as a player, I think it's a perfect move for him, but do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't. It probably won't happen, but I think he's a perfect player for most teams, you know. And I think the final nail is Frank Lampard openly saying, which is refreshing for Chelsea supporters, we need a bit more. And when he's saying that, he's not looking at the bench. He's not looking at Batman, and he's not looking at Giroud. So I can see one of them two going. But if Batshuayi becomes available on deadline day, there's going to be so many clubs going in for him. Palace, Newcastle, you name it. He's a proven Premier League striker as well.
Though, I mean, you know, the wages are going to be quite large to pay. So you've looked at the likes of like Crystal Palace and Aston Villa. Aston Villa, we know they're looking for another striker, and earlier on in the window they were being linked with Olivier Giroud. But would they be able to pay his wages? Probably not. So that all comes into it as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. If you could pick one club that Giroud would be the perfect fit at, where would it be?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. I'm so glad you looked at me first as well. I'm going to throw in Newcastle into the mix. Now, I know Joel Linton struggled up there for them this term. I think that would be a perfect player, perfect fit for the next 6 months. Target man, Premier League experience. I keep repeating that word, but I think it's so important. We see how difficult it is for players to adjust to playing in a Premier League from abroad. And coming in January is even more tough midway through a season. But Olivier Giroud would be a perfect fit for Newcastle, in my opinion.
Yeah. Anyone else got anything they'd like to throw into the ring?
He's a Jose Mourinho type player.
It wound up Arsenal as well.
Yeah.
But he's got experience, and Jose always likes experience.
Yeah.
Someone that's been there, done it, got the T-shirt and got the shirt. He's got all the London shirts. Why not add one more to his collection?
Yeah. No, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with Olivier Giroud. We're going to talk a little bit more about Friday because the deadline is fast approaching, just over 2 days to go. And I guess the question is, who needs to do business by Friday? Who do we expect to see do some business by Friday? Alice, who do you think is going to be busy over the next 2 days?
Steve Bruce and Newcastle, I would think, because they have had an awful amount of injuries. They were into the double figures recently. They've got a bit of a crisis at left back, haven't they? Jetro Willems out for the rest of the season. Paul Dummett as well. He's ruled out for the remainder of the season. So definitely in defence, I would say Newcastle could look to strengthen in that left back position.
Yeah, give Giroud a call for up front as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's there.
James, who do you think is going to be busy?
I don't know if I'm stealing anything that you guys are prepared to say. Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, their search for fullbacks is becoming quite desperate, I think. I think missing out on Kyle Walker-Peters is a huge blow for them. There's obviously talk about Patrick Van Aanholt potentially leaving this window. I'd be shocked if Roy Hodgson lets him leave, but by all intents and purposes, we're hearing that the player is pretty much ready for a new challenge elsewhere. Now, I don't believe they can let him go. I think a left-back is crucial. I expect another late night for whoever's covering Crystal Palace on deadline day.
Ooh,
Who is that? Michael, you think Palace will be busy? Who else do you think we're going to be hearing about making some signings?
Well, on Palace, Steve Parish and Dougie Freeman are working very hard.
Yeah.
It's a blow that they're not getting Kyle Walker-Peters. They want a right back, a left back. The Carrasco link has gone a bit quiet at the moment. They ideally want another striker as well to go with Cenk Tosun. I think they'll be busy. You look at the league table, though. I spoke to Daniel Farker on Friday, and he said, no, I don't think I'll bring anyone in. I'm not going to bring anyone in for the sake of it. I was slightly surprised about that, given, if they have a couple of wins, they're back in the mix.
Yeah.
West Ham, they'll want a few, I'd imagine. Just looking at the league table here, Mark, I mean, Tottenham will bring 2 in. One will get confirmed today, and then Spurs will probably sign a striker, I reckon, on deadline day. Man City, no. Sheffield United, maybe 1. Newcastle, a few. Yeah, it's going to be busy.
Everyone.
I think what's interesting in this window, how difficult it seems to be to get players in. I think every manager, I've spoken to David Moyes, Eddie Howe in the last couple of weeks, both of them have stressed how hard it is to bring players in this January transfer window. We had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in his press conference saying how difficult it is to buy the best players from clubs in this window. It's a real struggle. I was looking at actually the amount of signings there has been in the Premier League. Certainly 2 years ago, 54 in January, signed by Premier League clubs in 2018. So far, around 24 have been confirmed in this window, including a couple of players like Lo Celso, Aaron Moy, whose options to buy have been executed. So I think it's really difficult. I think it's going to be a struggle for a lot of clubs.
Yeah, and a common theme that we do here, and you said it there, Michael, is that managers saying we don't want to bring a player in for the sake of it, but actually coming from teams perhaps more down the bottom of the table, they wouldn't be bringing a player in for the sake of it. They'd be bringing a player in because they actually, their future in the Premier League depends on it. Is it more important for the teams down the bottom than the ones at the top?
Do you know what I think's happening at the moment? Is that every single manager in the bottom half of the Premier League is looking at every other single manager and every other single club, and there are not too many that are particularly active. So no one is being forced into making signings or thinking, they've signed 3 players, they've signed 2 players, they've got 4 players, we need to do something. They're all sat there going, well, you're just sitting tight, so we're going to sit tight. And I think it's just a bit of a cat and mouse game at the moment. I think if someone goes mad in the next 2 or 3 days and looks to sign a whole host of players, it might force the hand of a few clubs. But at the moment, I think everyone's quite content just sitting back, watching and seeing how things develop.
Premier League to Premier League deals in January are very, very difficult. Spurs are shopping in the European market at the moment. Let's look at Burnley, for example. Really interesting, I thought, from Sean Dyche the other week. He said there's no longer bargains really in the Championship. There's not the 1 million player who turns into the 20 million pound player. If you want to get someone from Brentford, you're going to pay 12 million, aren't you?
Probably double that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the problem as well. And the Championship being so tight this season that none of the clubs in the top 14 in the Championship, they all believe that they can be in the playoff shake-up. None of them want to lose their best players because they know what's at stake by getting promoted. Brentford have always had a model where they've sold their best players and then they're so confident in their scouting and recruitment structure that they'll be able to replace them. But they don't want to let anyone go. They want to keep everyone together, keep everything nice and stable because there are so many clubs that believe this is their season where they could get promoted.
Yeah, we're just going to bring you a little bit of an update on the Arsenal situation with Pablo Mari. We were telling you that they're close to agreeing a deal with Flamengo for defender Pablo Mari. He's expected back in London imminently to finalise what would be that loan move with an option to buy. Just a few more details. The deal is worth £12 million if Arsenal exercise that option in the summer. The loan fee thought to be £4 million with a further £8 million to be paid if Arsenal take up the option. Significantly, Flamengo have now signed central defender Leo Pereiro from Atletico Paranaense as a direct replacement. So whether that triggers things and makes this one move further forward, we will see. So yeah, Arsenal closing in on that deal with Flamengo for defender Pablo Mari. Lots of you getting in touch using that hashtag transfer talk this morning. We were talking about outside the box, thinking outside the box. I think, James, you mentioned Daniel Sturridge. Giorgio said definitely thinks someone like Daniel Sturridge would be an ideal signing for Tottenham. Knows the league is already a proven striker. Wouldn't be too expensive for us either. And also one here from Logan who's saying Jordan Rhodes to Manchester United. How about that for thinking outside the box? Right, that is it for Good Morning Transfers. Thank you to Michael, thank you to Mark, thank you to James, thank you to Alice, thank you to you guys for watching as well. Remember, the podcast is available on iTunes, Spreaker and the website. Good Morning Transfers returns tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Transfer Talk is back at midday this afternoon. And Dharma Chef Cavi Solik will return with the Transfer Show at 7 o'clock tonight. But stay with us. We'll have all the latest on Bruno Fernandez next.